Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Mavens of Manufacturing. I'm super excited because we don't have just one guest today. We have two, and they're both really amazing women doing some amazing things. One is actually in Melbourne, Australia right now as we speak, so that's very, very cool. So yes, this is a pre-recording because we had to align our time schedule so that everybody was awake and ready to do the interview. So please welcome me and welcoming Amanda and Johanna from ANCA CNC Machines. How are you ladies doing today?
Good, thank you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So Amanda, you're the marketing and communications manager, and Johanna, you're the group strategy and communications manager. So to get started, what I like to do is ask about your background and how you got into engineering and manufacturing. So Amanda, do you want to kick off the conversation and let us know how you got into this world of manufacturing? Because a lot of women that I've spoken to on past episodes have said, you know, was not expecting this. This is something that I accidentally fell into. And once I got involved, I loved it so much I couldn't leave. So what was your journey like?
Yeah, well, we always joke that manufacturing always pulls us back, right? So I started actually as an intern in college. My dad actually works in the manufacturing industry, and we're in Metro Detroit, you know, the automotive world. So I started as an intern with a machine tool builder, and just like you said,
Okay.
I kind of have never left. So I worked over there in accounting as an intern and morphed into marketing, you know, down the line. So I was with that organization for 10 years, and I've been with ANCA now for 6 months. Yeah, and it's great. I love manufacturing. It's fun to do all of these different things that we get to kind of play with.
So is ANCA the name of the company, or is it an acronym for something?
It's an acronym, but I'll let.
So Johanna,
Well,
what do you?
Sorry,
Go ahead. No, you're
I was
good.
just going to say, Amanda, do you know the acronym?
Australian pneumatic control, and the last A always escapes me.
I think it's automation. Actually, it doesn't stand for anything anymore. So in the when the company actually next year's 50 years. So
Nice. Okay.
when it first started out, it was doing the CNC controls for various OEMs, but then they decided to build the entire machine, and so the name actually didn't have a literal meaning anymore from what Amanda just said. So now it's just ANCA.
Okay, I had to ask because we have so many acronyms in engineering and manufacturing, and some decide to just spell out each letter individually, like CNC, and then some have their own pronunciation, and I never get it right when I try to attempt it without asking first. So that's why I wanted to ask. So thank you for that explanation.
No
Johanna,
worries.
how did you end up in manufacturing? Was it something that you always wanted to pursue? I know you're in Australia, so I'm just wondering how, you know, people get recruited into the sector in different areas of the world, because here it's a little bit different. I would think, but I know that there's certain challenges that we're all experiencing in terms of workforce development. But what was your experience like?
Well, I'm probably a little bit like what you referenced right at the beginning. I actually got into it because of family as well, because of my dad. So my dad's one of the co-founders of ANCA with Pat McCluskey. So I actually resisted joining the business because I just thought manufacturing was so boring, and I didn't even understand what we made. So I worked outside of the business until about 6 years ago in sort of more corporate affairs and communication roles, which was good because I think I learned a lot. And when I did finally join, it meant that I, you know, could take all of that learning and bring it into ANCA, where we were probably not quite as exciting as what we could have been from a marketing perspective. But yeah, now that I've joined, I mean, it's so much more interesting and dynamic, and the people are fantastic, and you know, it's been a really rewarding role and sector to work in. So yeah, I'm planning not to leave.
So was your dad, did he approach you and say, hey, I need your help on something, or were you as an outsider perspective, looking in and thinking to yourself, hey, I can help you with this because you're not doing a good job at it?
Well, I actually don't know if I'm revealing a few of the family secrets, but he told me I couldn't join. There were a few tears because he just didn't understand how what I did could be translated into what ANCA as a business needed. He just hadn't been exposed to it.
Gotcha.
And so I could see that there was a lot of opportunity, and, I had finished up with a previous role and I thought, well, now or never, let's give it a shot. But yeah, I had to force my way in, actually. So lucky it worked.
That's super funny. So what are some of the things that you bring to the table then? Because, that's not uncommon. I hear that a lot about companies who are used to doing it, the old school way. And if it's not broke, don't fix it type of mentality. But when it comes to marketing and communications, they really struggle with the storytelling aspect of things. And that's just from my observation as a tech writer. Like, a lot of them are really good about, hey, this is what we do, this is what we sell, here are the 5 top features of it. But now there's the shift, right, where we have to really provide that value to the customer, and we can't really do that if we don't have the trust in them, and we have to really be able to hone in on those stories. So what are some of the things that you guys are working on to get that story of ANCA out there?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, I obviously walked into something where the fundamentals were being done. There were a lot of brochures, and we were going to trade shows, and the business was successful. It wasn't suffering as a result of not doing more marketing. Sorry, my cat's just attacking me here.
Supposed to be in the shot.
Yeah. But what I really noticed that was missing was just that creativity and really understanding the audience and the customer, and being a bit brave about how you did market products so that it wasn't just a straight capability sell. And when I joined, I noticed that there was just this insane amount of passion, especially amongst the US customers because we make tool and cutter grinders. So our customers grind high precision tools that are used in sort of aerospace, medical, woodworking, car manufacturing, all throughout the supply chain. But they're quite a high precision tool that does need a lot of intellect and understanding and creativity to make them. And people were sharing photos of their tools and the work that they were doing on social media, and they were so proud of themselves. And so we actually recognised that and said, well, hey, let's do something to celebrate it. And we created this competition called Tool of the Year, which in Australia, tool can mean like a silly person. So the Australian team were like, oh, you're calling it Tool of the Year? That's ridiculous. It's like silly person of the year. But, we sort of tapped into this passion and really supported our customers to help celebrate, their own achievements. And, in many ways, they think of themselves like a craftsman. It's like they've created this guitar and they want to show just how beautiful it is. And, now it's really successful. I think it's up to the 5th year. Last year we had over 8 million views that we were able to track via the media, because it gets an extensive amount of media coverage. We have global entries from all over the world. It's been seen by over 200,000 fans on our social media as well. And there was 200 engagements. So that's likes, shares, comments. That's a lot of engagement from a social media perspective. And it was just because we recognised that our customers were just so passionate about what they did and what they made. And we wanted to celebrate that. So that's an example where I suppose, I came in with fresh eyes, but also from maybe a more creative background than what manufacturing's used to applying from a marketing perspective, and was able to see that it could add value in manufacturing as well.
That's really cool. And is that something that you do across your facilities, or is it just something in Australia that you're doing it in?
No, we export 99% of our products. So one of the hardest things for me based here in Melbourne is our customers are pretty much all overseas. We export to like 45 countries. So no, but the Americas have been really strong in their entries, actually. They've been the majority of winners. And last year the winner came from Mexico, but we've also had 2 winners from the US as well. So no, they're coming from all over the world.
That's really cool. So I'm a huge fan of CrossFit, and the Americans and the Australians really have this great rivalry going on, and it's just incredible. And this has nothing to do with engineering or manufacturing, but I just thought it was cool that we have an American and Australian here on the conversation. So,
There you
in
go.
terms of
I like CrossFit too.
in terms of they actually have Tia Toomey is her name. She's Australian and she's pregnant now, and you should see her doing all of these workouts while pregnant. I'm a little like kind of like, okay, I can't stand you, but it's awesome to see. Like, but it makes you feel really bad about yourself if you're not in shape. And she's like almost 9 months pregnant, still benching a lot. In terms of like your positions, how is it working with, because you're 15 hours ahead of us, Johanna. You're already into Tuesday and we're still Monday, which is crazy, mind bending. Yeah. But how is working together in terms of your marketing and communications? Like, what does a day in the life look for both of you, and how do you overcome some of those challenges being in different time zones? And I have some other questions about the marketing specifically, because I just had this talk with some gentlemen from Denmark where how we market here in America is a little bit different how they market things in Denmark. So I wanted to get into that. But first, can you let us know how a day in the life looks for both of you and how you work around the huge time difference that's between you?
Well, I think we can both agree that we get a lot of emails overnight. So when we wake up, there's a lot of emails in the inbox because the other country is working. But the great thing, I think, for me, and I would assume for a lot of people in this field, is no day is the same. Every day is different. So it's even hard to talk about a day in the life. Right now we're working on our, we've got a couple big events coming up, trade shows, things like that. So there's a lot of prep for those things, preparing, talking to the different markets. We've got Tool of the Year launching soon. So we're working on the promotional campaign for that. And then I think it's important to note too, that when Johanna started, she realized that there's a difference between marketing, and I'll let her talk about it more, but there's more of me's around the world. So, we get to work and collaborate with people in Europe and China and in Australia. So that's very exciting.
What about you, Johanna? How does your day look like?
Hectic? No. Well, yeah, I mean, the same as Amanda. I think something which is really great in our team and something which we all embrace is that we're willing to try new and different ways to approach marketing and get our message across to customers and potential customers. So, yeah, we're always trying new and different things, which sometimes means more work, but hopefully it means it's more rewarding. So it was pretty awesome when Amanda first joined. She recognised that it was a bit challenging for us to get a machine out to Mexico. So we did a live stream over Facebook for the first time ever, and Amanda drove that initiative, and it was really successful. And I know Amanda's also, for the Tool of the Year, we're going to have the first ever category for a female machinist, which I think is really exciting. And we've already had some people say that they're interested in putting people forward for that. So I don't know. I think, yeah, it's just, it's busy because you've always got a lot of different priorities and activities happening. And I suppose when you've got that mix around events versus campaigns and content creation versus social, versus, making sure the budget's all right and everything, it's just, you're always sort of jumping around, but it definitely makes it interesting. So
are there ways in which you have to switch the messaging at all in between different countries that you're promoting to? And if so, like how does that process happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably the most obvious is the channels. So, for example, we've, if you wanted to go to Korea, they've got a completely different social media channel to what we have in Australia, and also what we use predominantly in the US. And I don't know how to use it. So, it's called Line. I've never used it before. It's in Korean. It's like impossible. So to be honest, in a way, the Americas are the easiest to sort of work with because we share the common language. And I think a lot of our business practices and channels are quite similar. In Europe, a big difference between Europe and the US is Europe has really strong privacy laws. So what that means for us is trying to get our e-news out, or if we're looking to do lead generation campaigns, it's quite hard because they've got this whole legislation around what information can be shared and what people have to do to opt into a newsletter, versus America, where it's much easier to, I suppose, target people and get our message out because there isn't that same legislation constraint. Obviously, language is a big one. We translate all of our content into 8 languages, and really understanding the nuances with the different regions around what they're looking for. So going back to Korea again, they actually have in law that they're not allowed to do more than a 38-hour working week. So that means Koreans will be looking for a lot more automation in their manufacturing processes because they can't have their staff work big hours. It's not allowed by law. In Europe, it's a really high-cost manufacturing country. And so, again, they are looking for a lot more automation. The US really wants to make a lot of their own products themselves, which, is really good that they've got all that sovereign capability. I think Australia could learn a bit from that. We need to build up our manufacturing sector. So there is nuances, but generally I think the messages cut across the different regions fairly consistently. I don't know, Amanda, if you have a view. I mean, you sort of see what we send out from a group perspective and...
Yeah, I think a lot of it is very similar because a lot of people in manufacturing for all of the reasons that you just listed have very similar problems or, bottlenecks in their organization. So it's about working through that. And then I guess our side of things is just how best to present it. So like you mentioned, is it through Line? Is it through LinkedIn? Is it email? So ours is about finding those problems that we can help our customers solve and really partner with them. And, I think that's how we want to be seen, as less of a supplier and more of a partner. We want to help them work through these things and get to their next, achieve their next goal.
Do you find that there's any differences or similarities in the strategy of social media or marketing? So like a lot of the channels here in the United States that we're using, and I talked to a couple of members of my network where like there's certain days where posts seem to perform better during the week and certain time blocks and stuff. And then they talk about if you want to do brand awareness, make sure you're posting every single day. And I just feel like as an American, we've gotten very stuck to our phone. So if something isn't updated every day, then we get bored with it. Is that the same that you're seeing in other countries too, where everybody's just craving something new every single day in terms of how they're getting marketed to?
Yeah, I do. I think that is the same, to be honest. I think just consistency, and as long as the content's interesting, we do a lot of content marketing, I'd say, where we're trying to value add for our customers. So we do a Tooltip Tuesday, which is giving people once a week information on how to use the software better. We do ANCA Academy, which is a longer form video, which we put out once a month. So we try to make sure what content we put out there is actually going to be of interest to the audience. But yeah, we're definitely using it across the regions every day. One thing that I'm struggling with, and we haven't really come up with a solution for yet, is the multilingual posts on our social channels. So, if you look at LinkedIn is used in Europe as well as in America. There's obviously a lot of different languages in Europe. In previous companies, I've consolidated the LinkedIn presence because you end up with 18 different LinkedIn pages and who's managing what, and things aren't getting updated. So I've sort of made a hard and fast rule. No, we've got one channel and we need to make sure that, we're addressing all of our audiences. But in Europe, I think they're quite sensitive to getting content. In Germany, for example, they want their content, especially in France, they want their content in French. They don't want it in any other language. They won't read it. So are you missing out building an audience there if you're putting French content up there once a month, but it's mixed with other languages as well? Or do you create a French channel, which then requires a lot of resourcing and you've got to monitor it and everything, and you've got to build the audience up, which takes a long time. So, you know, for me, the language thing is actually hard. And that's not something we've fixed yet. And what's been interesting is we've started using the LinkedIn newsletter function, and that's been really successful. So we have more people subscribe to our LinkedIn newsletter, which is over 7,000 readers, than what we would have in our CRM English newsletter reach at the moment. But you can't do multilingual posts. So you're like, great, we've got this amazing following. What if we send out an article in German? You know, and then suddenly all of the people who signed up to an English newsletter are going to get something in German. They don't want that. But is it going to be that much of an issue? It's just flashing up in their social media and going away again. So it's, for me, that's a challenge that I haven't got my head around. And the other interesting thing is, I think, how people use social media. So WhatsApp in India, I think, you know, that's more of a group function. So people are talking to each other in that group chat and sharing information rather than you just sending out a message. You know, in WeChat, they've got all of this functionality where you can use it as an aftermarket tool where people can book in appointments and things like that. So it's also understanding how people are accessing and using those channels as much as the messaging is going to be different.
Yeah, that's an interesting topic that you just brought up, because I noticed that on some of the posts that I get, because I'm connected to other individuals from different countries, they'll have their initial post in their own language, and then LinkedIn offers C translation. How accurate that is, I have no idea. I had a friend who's from Denmark. They sent me a text message trying to explain what they were trying to do with their company, and they're like, but things get translated differently when I try to explain them in English, because my native language is Danish. So I'm like, well, just send me how you would say it in Danish and maybe I can look at it. And then they sent me that, but then they sent me the Google Translated version too, and it was just horrible. And I'm like, okay, never mind, we're not going to do that, because that just sounded way much worse. So yeah, that's such an interesting topic that I didn't think about, because, you know, why wouldn't somebody want their posts to be in the language that they speak? It's just easier for them. And I think multilingual newsletter options would be, because I think LinkedIn too limits you. I don't think you can do a bunch of newsletter under one page.
No, so we've only got one newsletter. So we could put a different language up there, because you can post whatever article you want, but you can't, like, because we would have our articles in 8 languages. We can't put it in 8 languages up there and then have it sent to the relevant language, if that makes sense.
That might be a good request to LinkedIn. I'll have to, I have a friend who does a lot with LinkedIn in general. So like if they have a new feature, he'll get the beta testing of it and provide constructive feedback to them. I'll have to talk to him and see if there's a way that
Megan, if you could resolve that, that would be amazing.
Yeah, so I'll put a seed in his ear, because if international companies, it's because there's a ton of international companies that have different customers in different areas. So if they could find a way to allow them to maybe have multiple newsletters under their company page, that would definitely cure that problem. That's interesting. Yeah. Wow. So so in America, we talk a lot about, you know, diversifying our workforce and getting more women involved. And, you know, I've always had this question when I ask other people from other countries, and I've talked to some women who are in England and some women who are in India. And it just really depends where you are in the world, how they're getting manufacturing engineering promoted. And, you know, if it's a patriarch country over a matriarch country, like how many women would be involved in engineering or manufacturing. So I'm curious to know, what is the state of manufacturing in Australia? And are you experiencing some of the same challenges that we are here in the United States in terms of getting people really excited about joining the sector and filling some of these vacant positions that we have. Do you have a skills gap, or do you have any challenges like that? What does it look like over there?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, it's probably pretty similar to the US from a demographic perspective. We do have, because our main engineering team, or the bulk of the engineering team, are based in Melbourne, and we do have female representation in that. And I think I heard that more females actually finish engineering degrees at the moment than men. But you do find still, especially in the senior roles, unfortunately, that there's a much larger proportion of males in that. And it's something that, you know, Amanda and I talk about, and I'm really passionate about trying to promote women, you know, especially as a family business. I'm like, come on, I've got to try and capitalize on this family connection and see what I can do. But it is hard to attract females into some of the roles. We have an apprenticeship program, and we do have a female apprentice, which is fantastic. But she's the first she's the only female in the apprenticeship program at the moment. You know, when you look at, because we manufacture the machines as well, there's very low representation of females in that workforce. My team is predominantly females, which tends to happen in marketing communication roles. You know, I think it is just like doing things like this female machinist and trying where we can to really promote and celebrate women who are in those roles. And it's hard because, you know, we have someone who's a really successful engineer in our team in Australia. And so we tend to tap her on the shoulder all the time. And we're like, oh, Melinda, it'd be really great if we could put you forward for this award, or, you know, and she's probably a little bit publicity shy. And sometimes it feels like a little bit, not tokenistic, but, you know, you've got your person that you're trying to promote and create positive publicity around having someone in a more senior role in the organisation. But I think it's tough and a challenge. But what I do think is interesting is, as you referred to before about different societies, if you look at our Thai team and some of those South Asian teams, there is a lot more females in the workforce and also in senior positions. Our most senior person in Thailand is a female, and she's got quite a big team underneath her. So there does seem to be a cultural difference there around expectations of females in the workplaces, and it's probably around family structures as well. I think grandparents get very involved in looking after the grandkids, which gives people a little bit more flexibility. But also, you know, we've just launched. We've launched it a little bit ago, but we're really getting traction on this product that we've got called AIMS, which is really, really, really exciting. It's just none of our competitors do it, and it's just going to put us so far ahead, which is how an Australian business has actually been able to sell overseas. Because I think when we started 50 years ago, everyone would have been like, Australia? Where's Australia? Doesn't it take like 6 weeks to get there by boat? Why would we buy advanced manufacturing of Australia? So we've always gone to market with like new technology and something that the competitors aren't doing, because we had to really make our mark as a supplier that people were interested in from a technology perspective, which is a nice legacy to have and nice to have part of our DNA. But this AIMS system is a fully automated manufacturing cell. So it's looking at not just our machine, but it's looking at all the different components of what's required to manufacture a cutting tool and automating that as much as possible. So, for example, you might only need one operator, and then it will run lights out for 66 hours and produce 9,000 tools. Now, that's a little bit off the top of my head, so don't come to me and say, is that what I can do? The 66 hours is true, and the one operator. But I think, you know, that means that some of the jobs in manufacturing that aren't necessarily as value add, we don't need to rely on them as much. And hopefully that means even from a female perspective, there's more opportunities, because the jobs that we do need require more thinking and probably a higher skill level. And, you know, I think like operators, for example, is something where it is tough to find good operators. And as I said before, you know, their intelligence around making the cutting tool makes a real difference. But there's a lot of tasks that require just manual handling that isn't really using their time to the best of their ability. So maybe that'll change the face of the workforce as well, where it's just a bit more dynamic and interesting. And yeah, hopefully we can get some more females to jump in as well.
Yeah, I'm excited to look more into the Ames product that you mentioned, because I'm trying to think if I've heard of anything similar to that. But automation it's such an interesting time to be in manufacturing, because things are changing so quickly. And you know, I don't think anyone really knows like what the parameters are, because most of the people who are looking into automating their processes are first time buyers. So it's just like, where do you start and where do you go? So yeah, I'm interested in learning more about that, most definitely. I did want to throw a question Amanda's way about some of the things that ANCA's doing on the American side of things to get more involved with women in manufacturing, because I do see an uptick, right? Like there's a lot of women who are doing CNC machining. There's a lot of women who are entering into welding. There's a lot of women entering construction, but we're still at that small percentage. So are there specific initiatives on the American side of things that ANCA is doing to get girls and young women excited about entering this sector, especially with some of the positions that aren't marketing and sales? Because Johanna, you mentioned that before, like most of the women seem to enter in from the marketing and sales side of things. Are there, on the American side of things, what are we doing to get them to some of the other stuff that we're known for?
Yeah, I think one of the big things is catching women when they're young, and you know, really getting them interested in the science that is, or the art that is grinding, and looking at what can we do to make people see that manufacturing now isn't what it used to be. You know, it's not going to a dark, dirty factory where you're gonna, you know, it's risky and scary and there's all these things. Manufacturing really is state of the art. There's a lot going on right now that is world, I would gather to say world changing. There's a lot of innovation going on there. There's a lot of science behind it. I think getting people into the facilities to see what kind of things people are doing now is huge, and getting them in young enough where they can consider that a career field. I feel like if you wait till, you know, junior, senior year of high school, you've kind of already missed the opportunity to talk to them because they've started to lay those plans. So our goal is to get into the high schools, start talking to them early, and really open up the shop so people can walk around and see what's going on. So those are some initiatives. We're starting work with Oakland Community College, which is a local community college around here. And we're also trying to, through that channel, talk to some local high schools.
Nice. Johanna, are there specific, sorry, my daughter's calling me right now. That was weird. Johanna, are there specific initiatives that you're doing in Australia to get more girls excited? Like, do you have facility tours out there that you conduct? Because I know from experience, this is just me personally, when I go into a manufacturing facility, I get really into like how things are working, how things are. I just toured a chip factory in my hometown. Never knew they made Cheetos in my hometown, and they do, and they let me taste warm Cheetos, and I was like super excited about it because I've never had that before.
You can't
And they're a lot
go back
and,
to cold ones
yeah,
anymore, can you?
you really can't. So I feel like facility tours is highly important in terms of getting the next generation really excited, especially girls, because you know we tend to be more creative, and I think if they can take a walk through a facility tour, they can actually see the creativity that's involved in manufacturing and engineering.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I'm trying to think of how I can do it better. But we do have a community program where we sponsor education initiatives. So we've got 3 university teams that we're sponsoring, and you know, so it's tapping into their networks and their activity that they're doing. So one of the university teams makes an electric car. So this is outside of their car work. They do it sort of as a project basis and, you know, learn how to work as a team and learn new skills and things like that. And they're having a Women in STEM evening this week, where we'll go along to and present and, you know, obviously invite people out for a tour as well. So I think for us, it's about tapping into those networks in the education arena where we can access programs that are already happening to get people out. We love tours. We love having people come in and have a look. And we're definitely not a company that's sort of like, oh, no, we've got heaps of IP. Please don't come near us. So, yeah, at any chance we get, we would definitely have a tour. And if it was an opportunity that it was, you know, really promoting female in STEM, then we jump on top of that. There's just not enough around, to be honest. But I do think it's changing. I think more and more emphasis is being put, especially around getting people, like you said, Amanda, into those early STEM sort of areas of education. And the other thing we do is just try and enter awards. So there, you know, Engineering Australia is a big body which tries to support engineers in Australia. So they've got female specific awards. So, you know, we enter those and try and get in front of people that way and encourage people to come and have a look. But in Australia, what's interesting is, you know, we don't have a huge manufacturing sector. We're not doing so well in that regard. We need to do better. And sorry, I've just lost my train of thought. And as part of that, we are trying to do a lot more publicity around ANCA and try and build our brand in Australia because, you know, we want to be attracting the best of the best. And, you know, often we're having people come from overseas to join us. But, you know, we're definitely also trying to appeal to that female demographic in those engineering and manufacturing roles.
Yeah. You make an interesting point, though, too. Like, so in the United States, in the community that I grew up in the late 90s, early 2000s, we took a hit in manufacturing, as the whole United States did. And I think it's fair to say that manufacturing is a huge essential part to economic stability for any nation. So if you don't have a really good manufacturing sector, it can hurt your entire economy and just make things a little bit difficult. So anything that I can do personally to help you with that in Australia, just let me know. I wouldn't mind coming down there for a facility visit because I've never been to Australia and it's probably a lot warmer there than it is here in the Midwest. So anything that I can think of to have an excuse to come down there, definitely will be thinking about that now so I can do that. But yeah. Well, Amanda and Johanna, this has been a really great conversation and it's been fun learning more about ANCA. But before I let you go, I like to ask my guests if they have one ask for our audience, what would that biggest ask from you be for them?
That's a good question.
Mine is, if you're a female machinist, please enter ANCA Tool of the Year this year. You can find, we're launching it at the US Open House in a week, so you can find that on our website. So we'd love to celebrate women in manufacturing, or go and hit Amanda up for a job.
Yeah.
How many positions are you guys,
arms.
how many positions are you guys looking for right now to fill? Do you know?
So in the US, I think we've got 4 or 5 just based on, you know, the growth we've been seeing lately. So as I think all of manufacturing is kind of in the same boat right now where we've seen, you know, a lot of growth and we're still pretty busy. So we've got some open positions and we'd love those female machinists to come out and apply for some of them.
I'll get the link for the entry to the ANCA Tool of the Year, and I'll be sure to promote that with this episode because that's a great contest. I'm excited to see how that turns out. Amanda, what would your ask be for our audience? It can't be the same as Johanna.
Oh, man. Well, shoot. I think primarily would be just using the channels in manufacturing. I think oftentimes manufacturing, especially some of the small shops, have a hard time, using marketing to their benefit and really seeing that growth. So go out there and try and make those posts. You don't have to do it every day, of course. Like you said, every day is great. But go out and try LinkedIn, try and make the posts, try and update the website, and just see, give yourself some time and see the changes that can be made. Small things in marketing can make a big difference. Step outside of the box and see what you can do.
Absolutely. I'm always a fan of big risk takers. So if it's a little bit of risk, I think you're on the right path, because it can be fun and not have to be the traditional boring way to market or communicate to people. So
exactly,
definitely agree with that. If anybody has any more questions for either of you, where can they find you, and what is the best email or website they should go to?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn.
Yep.
You go, Amanda.
So LinkedIn, or you can visit our website, www.anca.com. You can also find us on all the social media channels, LinkedIn, YouTube.
And what's the closest trade show that you guys are going to next?
Ooh, so we've got the open house, but that's happening in May, so I'm not sure when this will air. But we're going to Fab Tech and Motion and Power in the fall. So those might be the closest ones come air date.
Okay, I will try to find you at Fab Tech, because I will be there at Fab Tech.
Oh, perfect.
Johanna, what's the best way to get a hold of you, Johanna? Where can they find you?
LinkedIn, but also my contact details are on the website under media. Okay. So you can find my email there if you want to send me an email. I'd be happy to talk to anyone. So
fantastic. Well, thank you ladies so much for taking the time, especially since it's so late because of the time difference. I really appreciate us coordinating this together. I think the information that you provided is really helpful, especially to those who might be marketing on an international level. The point that you brought across with having posts in different languages, that never crossed my mind. So I'm going to work on that with my friend and see if maybe we can update LinkedIn to include multiple newsletters under one page. But thank you both, ladies. Have a great day. I really appreciate it. To all that tuned in, be sure to tune in next week. We got another great episode of Mavens in Manufacturing for you. Have a great weekend, everyone. Bye.
All right. Thanks, Megan.
Today's manufacturing industry is rapidly changing. We've heard the challenges you face. You want to make better data-driven decisions, increase productivity, eliminate human error, and achieve consistent, high-quality output. The ANCA Integrated Manufacturing System, or AIMS, is the holistic end-to-end solution to future-proof your tool manufacturing production, improving your factory's efficiency and automating manual tasks so that your people can focus on value-added activities, all while giving you the data that enables continuous improvement. The AIMS server is the brain of the whole system, connecting all the machines and ensuring data flow between processes. It is where you determine what your factory looks like, define your work centres, store step-by-step manufacturing instructions or recipes for your tools, and much more, all helping you to make informed decisions based on data. The auto set is where you interact with the system, regardless of the size of your operation. With just one operator working the day shift 5 days a week, you can schedule jobs and run lights out with minimal interaction. Just select the job, load the tools, start the next job, and walk away. The fully autonomous auto fetch transfers pallets from the auto set to the grinder, reducing the need for manual tasks, making your factory safer and freeing up your staff for value-added activities. The auto fetch also transfers individual tools from the machine to the Zola auto line for periodic measurement. Measurement values are then transferred back to the grinder and compensation is applied, if needed, on subsequent tools. This closed-loop measure and compensate process is managed by AutoComp, one of the software modules of the AIMS server. Maintain consistent quality and ensure your tool batch is within tolerance without any operator interaction. AIMS grows with your needs, providing flexibility to target areas of your production that will benefit the most, or be deployed to your wider manufacturing process to take full advantage of a connected system. Start working towards your goals now using AIMS-ready machines and solutions that can be seamlessly incorporated into your AIMS cell. From blank to finished tool, AIMS works for you around the clock, accurately and tirelessly improving your productivity and enabling you to remain globally competitive with high-quality tools. Future-proof your business with AIMS. Connect, automate, create.